As awesome as this camera is, this camera does not have a light meter built in. So now that this is fit on, look at that. That's the lens that will allow the light to go through the light meter. And just look at how it transforms this camera. It actually makes it look really cool, I say. So I'm gonna demonstrate how this works. Okay, so right now I have my blinds over there closed, at least partially. And in this particular condition, you will notice that there's not a lot of light coming in here. The incident light is moderate, I would say. And if you notice, the dial here is not really moving, and that's because it's currently set in the high setting. In a very bright condition, you would use the high setting here. In a not so bright condition as you have indoors, or what I have currently here, I will be using the low setting here. Okay, so I'm going to change this to the low setting. The moment I do that, now you notice that this actually switched. I'll do it again. High, see, and then now low. So now I'm actually getting a reading that I could actually use. Now if you look here, this little thing here is actually f1.4. I cannot use that setting because this lens only goes down to f2.2. So at the very least I want to be at f2 here. So what I do is I move this dial, and as you move this dial, you bring it in alignment with the meter reading here. And you see that the meter reading falls in line with this white part which travels down, and this is f2. So what this is telling me is that the fastest shutter speed that I can use at this particular exposure is 1/30th of a second. Okay, so this is how this works. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to now open the blinds, and I'm going to let in more light, and then I'm going to demonstrate how this would work with the high setting. As you can see, I've opened the blinds. I'm letting in a lot more light. The meter is all the way down to the corner here, and that would tell you that, hey, this is not the appropriate setting to use. You can't be using the low setting here. So I'm going to switch this to the high setting, and the moment I do that, now it moves to a point where I can actually meter it properly. Remember, because you're using the high, you only can read from the black portion of the dial here, which means I have to go from this side this direction. Okay, with this amount of light that's coming into the camera at this shutter speed, for example, my appropriate aperture setting should be at read it down, f5.6 at this amount of light. If I wanted to say prioritize the shutter speed, and if I wanted to go even higher, maybe to 500, then it will tell me that, hey, I'm gonna have to actually bring down my aperture to f2.8. And my lens can still handle that because my lens goes up to f2.2. I want to actually see how much more shutter speed I can squeeze through this. And now that I'm doing that, I will have to go down to f1.4, and my lens cannot handle f1.4. So that means that my image will actually be underexposed. Okay, so what I'll do is bring it back down to an aperture setting that this camera can actually handle. So if I wanted to prioritize, let's say, the aperture, let's say I really want to reduce the depth of field. I don't want to blow out the background. I want my composition, everything in the composition, most things to be in focus. So that means that you want the higher aperture numbers here, which means you are going to actually close your aperture to be smaller, right? So if I wanted that, then I would actually prioritize. Let's say I want f22 right here. So I'm gonna go to f22, and at that aperture setting, what it's telling me is that, hey, your shutter speed is going to have to be around 1/15th of a second to get the right exposure, right? If I wanted f8, I would just change the dial to to where the meter is, f8, and my shutter speed will have to be 1/30th of a second. So in a nutshell, this is how this meter works.